In a salacious spectacle representing the nadir of Prince Harry's plummeting public esteem rivaled only by his wife's own trailblazing achievements debasing royal dignity beyond recoverable reputability, the ostracized Duke of Sussex literally urinated upon himself in total humiliation this week. The shameful public accident occurred during an emotionally shattering press event where Invictus CEO Sir Lenny Huxton unceremoniously stripped Harry of his ambassadorial leadership role chairing the annual Paralympic-style competition he founded nearly a decade ago for wounded military veterans, only to have that honored privilege instantly bestowed upon former brother-in-law Mike Tindal in his stead. According to first-hand accounts from the intimate City of London ceremony swirling through high society's most scandalous back-channels grappling for appropriate synonyms capturing adequate indignities, the 38-year-old Duke absolutely lost control of his bladder faculties the precise moment Huxton praised Tindal's impeccable credentials honoring servicemen before gesturing toward the disgraced prince awkwardly soiling himself just feet away. In a grotesquely pitiful nadir symbolizing the Archwell household's mortifying self-implosions over recent months, shell-shocked eyewitness testimonials described distinct puddles forming underneath the gasping Duke's trousers while he watched his replacement graciously accept the position with characteristic sportsmanship. Honestly, I haven't witnessed such squalid degradation of pedigree and composure since my own regimental cadets vomited half-digested ration packs during battlefield acclimation exercises at Sandhurst, chuckled General Sir Alastair Munsey, former ceremonial colonel whose unit famously fast-tracked the Duke into active duty 2 decades ago. At a certain point you simply resign yourself that Harry's perpetual humiliations upon the crown through his own boundless insecurities will only culminate in a gloriously macabre Shakespearean denouement apropos for such grand generational fecklessness. Far from eliciting pity or contrition at the sight of their scion's nationally televised domesticated incontinent breakdown, most royal watchers confirmed the sad, saggy visuals of Prince Harry involuntarily dampening his family jewels sparked unrestrained revelry across the highest aristocratic spheres. Almost instantaneously, every great house's Mayfair parlours erupted in uproarious roar reminiscent of Old England's raucous mead halls disgracing any vanquished sovereign with such rapturous mockery historically reserved for when kings suffering dementia publicly soil themselves beyond all sanity. Oh, what unmitigated merriment! The visuals of that tiresome ginger buffoon visibly dampening his silks after being symbolically gelded by Tindal's ascension sparked rounds of laughter not heard across the realm since His Majesty King George III resumed greeting visiting dignitaries stark chub out drenched in his own slops, exclaimed the Duke of Devonshire while wiping tears from his eyes during a lively St. James's confab dissecting the incident's most priceless indignities. Once those first twinges of horror evaporated permitting elites to accept the monstrous humiliation unfolding was simultaneously public and incorrigible, well, obviously one absorbed the full absurdity of witnessing an arrogant sprig essentially defecating himself after being consigned to absolute irrelevance right there. Of course, no calamitous disgrace of this magnitude upon the crown avoids being dissected under the highest possible microscopes within Great Britain's most prestigious military fraternities. And unsurprisingly, the more scrutiny afforded Harry's abject collapse in social decorum witnessed from such an up-close vantage point, the more incalculable disdain amassed for a duke clearly never possessed the mettle for basic responsibilities shouldered by even the tamest ceremonial regalia appointments. Particularly for those holding service records upholding strictest battlefield expectations through personally witnessing inconceivable horrors, the optics of Prince Harry so unceremoniously unsheathing his royal privates and soiling himself engendered total contempt for how far standards once reserved for actual men have deteriorated. Honestly, I witnessed my entire scout reconnaissance troop make more dignified spectacles of themselves after Pashto tribesmen severed heads started raining on our position outside Kandahar than this absolute embarrassment of basic soldierly bearing from a grown bloody man, hissed Captain Sir Clarence Waddington, whose chest ribbons documented some of the Afghan War's most harrowing engagements before being forced to retire after losing multiple limbs. Every soldier essentially gets conditioned for trauma spectacles exponentially more undignified than what amounted to witless Harry daydreaming himself into a panic-soiling performance no worse than what toddlers undergo with basic potty training. So for this Duke with no actual record of battlefield valor to somehow still soil himself upon mere reassignment duties before the entire nation, stripping him of even nominal figurehead roles he never rightfully earned nor appreciated in the first place? Well, that just represents exactly the sort of entitled debauchery and toddler tantrums every able-bodied patriot knew lurked behind that ingrate's public mask from day one anyway. It's less dramatic as just utterly pathetic. While the former soldier community responded with scorn more or less expected toward Prince Harry's humiliating loss of decorum, the infamously petty Sussex household itself reacted to the Tindal ascension shakeup, fueling their patriarch's meltdown with far more unhinged pique and bitterness surpassing imagination's cruelest limits. In keeping with their signature protocol manifesting textbook emotional incontinence, word quickly spread across Fleet Street regarding outrageous unhinged smears from the Archwell camp leveling preposterous allegations Tindal's promotion stemmed from seedy establishment gameplays concealing improper senior royal sexual liaisons. Look, everyone knows Zara Phillips and her husband were the only royals possessing enough chill factor to maintain working relationships with their outcast nephew when he started going off the QAnon deep end with Meghan Markle's paranoid conspiracies about the entire firm and every subsidiary institution willfully undermining their family bliss. Related one Kensington Palace advisor understandably exasperated over watching such gratuitous ugliness cascade forth from the Duke they once knew. So within their little echo chamber out in La La Land where Harry only receives information filtered through Sunshine Sachs operatives, they've somehow telescoped those residual cordial ties into twisted delusions involving everyone close to Zara being compromised into perverse sexual blackmail scenarios ensuring their obedience. Indeed, many of those closest to the embattled Duke worry that Harry's latest disgraceful nadir could ultimately prove the terminal breaking point propelling his entire household into such irreversible toxicity that not even the Crown's most generous overtures toward reconciliation may ever cut through the blinding fog of delusion holding them both mental hostage. While Markle's smear merchants churned out preposterous accusations characterizing the Tindal appointment as just the latest manifestation of King Charles's degenerate perviness, many observed Harry's own inner circle leaking allegations about witnessing the couple physically brutalize hired staff over refusing to swallow irrational conspiracy theories about Fergie involving bestiality with the changing of the Guards' horse regiments. Obviously, Meghan's entire branding identity relies upon projecting these absolutely farcical narratives demonizing British society for an endless panorama of Baroque discriminations they claim continuously target their family despite the impossible escalations such racism would now require to continue perpetrating, sighed one former advisor essentially banished to permanent outer darkness for refusing to corroborate delusions against palace principles. But now it appears Harry's devolved into such a dissociative outpatient that even he's begun believing the sort of dementia that would require courtiers literally doing things like replacing Charlotte with a synthetic android clone in order to appease shape-shifting pedophile lizards or whatever other demented lunacies she's brainwashed him into accepting. So with the entire Archwell apparatus now busily scattering every feces-based epithet imaginable characterizing the Tindal promotion as an inside job concealing foul improprieties too ghastly for public consumption, while simultaneously broadcasting leaked intelligence about Harry striking staff if they don't support that persecution complex, many close royal watchers legitimately wonder how much longer the Crown can